Meet the wild boar, the ultimate agricultural invader. With armor-like skin and enough strength to trash a farm overnight, these beasts are a Texas-sized problem. Despite a staggering 7,389 hogs being culled every single day, the tide still hasn't turned. It's no longer a hunt. It's a billion-dollar war for survival. Hunt and harvest life dives deep into the largest wildlife battle on U.S. soil. Man and machine versus an untamable enemy. Is it even possible to stop them? Watch as we uncover what it takes to fight back. Spanning from the hill country to the Rio Grande Valley and across to East Texas, a massive population of over 3 million wild hogs, accounting for roughly 40% of the national total, has claimed the landscape. These animals have been documented in all but one of Texas's 254 counties, effectively transforming agricultural heartlands into battlegrounds. Data from the USDA indicates that crop losses alone exceed $230 million annually. However, when factoring in destroyed fencing, wrecked irrigation systems, and polluted water sources, the total economic burden across the state surges toward $871 million. These intruders ravage fields of corn, cotton, and peanuts. In certain areas, they are responsible for up to 95% of all agricultural destruction. Their relentless rooting behavior degrades soil quality and fouls waterways, spiking bacteria counts to 40 times the levels found in healthy ecosystems. Furthermore, they endanger local fauna, ranging from ground-nesting birds to the at-risk Texas horned lizard. Most concerning is their role as disease vectors, harboring dozens of pathogens like pseudorabies and brucellosis that can jump to livestock, domestic animals, and people. The boundary between the wilderness and the suburbs is increasingly disappearing. Sounders of hogs have decimated golf courses in San Antonio, uprooted Dallas area playgrounds, and navigated Austin's busy expressways. The 2021 attack on a woman and her pet in Katie's George Bush Park serves as a sobering indicator. This is no longer strictly a rural dilemma.
Wild boar. These wild pigs are...
I used to think of hunters.
Have you ever considered that the aggressive creatures currently ravaging the Texas landscape began as nothing more than standard European farm swine?
Spread throughout many of our ecosystems. They're very adaptable.
And growing up to 400 pounds, they need a lot of food. Since they tend to rototill the ground when looking for a meal, they can quickly do a lot of harm to the environment. And when
Back
they
in the
arrive,
17th century,
they
these
tip
pigs
the
were brought
balance,
across the Atlantic intended as a
often
food source for
outcompete
colonists rather than a threat. However, several managed to flee into the wilderness. In the untamed American woods, they underwent transformation, eventually crossbreeding with domestic stock to produce a hybrid variety, one characterized by increased strength, speed, and hostility.
The spread. Sometimes the solutions may seem unpalatable.
By the end of the 1600s, these animals had migrated into Texas. In a vast territory overflowing with resources and devoid of natural enemies, their numbers spiked. This evolutionary shift effectively rebranded a docile livestock animal as a biological menace. Centuries after their arrival, the residents of Texas are still grappling with the consequences of that early introduction. Research indicates that the state of Texas needs to eradicate roughly 75% of the feral hog population annually, simply to prevent their numbers from growing. If that benchmark isn't hit, the population will rebound by the following spring, more resilient than ever before. F. Before the sun rises, the Texan countryside is eerily quiet. Hidden within the thickets, a different sort of force is waking up. Feral boars, shielded by thick mud and coarse hair, glide like ghosts through the mesquite trees. Before the day breaks, they will have shredded fencing and destroyed harvests, disappearing before they can be detected. Under Texas statutes, wild pigs are classified as nuisance wildlife, meaning there are no hunting seasons or bag limits, only a perpetual effort to safeguard the terrain. Consequently, during organized hog control weekends, a mix of volunteers, landowners, and federal agents assemble like a tactical unit. They prep AR-style rifles, chambered in .223/5.56 or .308, and precision bolt-action firearms. Thermal optics are calibrated, and radios buzz with activity as teams share target locations. Strategic positioning is vital, staying downwind and close to watering holes where the pigs forage at night. Cellular trail cameras identify the busiest areas. When the target appears, the hunter remains composed, finger resting on the trigger. On the thermal display, heat signatures appear as bright white silhouettes, the clear outline of feral swine. A single shot rings out, and silence returns to the pasture.
Smoke them.
Canines are essential for a productive outing. These dogs find and trail the pigs, pursuing them until they are cornered or held in place for the hunters. They are specifically coached to flush the animals into clearings, allowing for ethical and precise shots. Following a ground-level hunt, the remains may be buried on site or sent for industrial processing. Subject to USDA oversight, some are converted into livestock feed or soil amendments, while others, provided they are safe, are utilized for pet food or shipped abroad as specialized wild boar meat. As the sun peaks over the horizon, helicopter rotors slice the quiet air, stirring up dust with a deafening roar. Underneath them, groups of feral swine disperse like spilled ink over the open fields. When traditional land-based efforts fall short, Texas elevates the struggle to the heavens. Each aircraft carries a specialized, compact team consisting of a pilot, a spotter, and a shooter, all working under rigorous state-issued permits and private property contracts. These missions are scheduled within specific timeframes because the financial investment is significant. Hourly rates range from $2,000 to $3,000, an expense that must be balanced against the severity of the infestation. From an aerial perspective, crews can monitor miles of scrubland and boundaries in a single pass. Infrared cameras highlight the darkness with glowing mobile figures. In thick terrain, these flights can eliminate hundreds of animals per mission. For instance, a single operation in Leon and Anderson counties neutralized 202 hogs in less than 10 flight hours. Recent annual data highlights the effectiveness of these missions. Airborne units culled more than 23,000 hogs throughout Texas, a figure that significantly influences both tactical planning and financial allocations. These teams maintain detailed logs, submit cull records, and revisit the same fields. Yet, for every hog eliminated, 2 others enter the world. The struggle is perpetual. However, the aftermath of the gunfire is seldom captured on film. In the majority of these missions, the remains are left where they fall to rot naturally, consumed by scavengers like vultures and coyotes, or processed by soil microbes within a few days. Per Texas Parks and Wildlife and USDA Wildlife Services, this approach is deemed the most feasible for massive aerial operations, where collecting the bodies is expensive and frequently unachievable across jagged landscapes. For decades, land managers attempted to defeat their foes using lures and toxins. However, feral pigs are more than just resilient. They possess a keen intelligence. They adapt, and they don't forget. Imagine a large-scale corral trap, roughly the dimensions of a home garden, with heavy metal doors slamming shut under the stars. Capturing 20 or 30 animals in one go might feel like a win. Yet, by daybreak, hundreds of others are already shredding a different pasture just a short distance away. In the context of Texas, the math simply doesn't favor the humans. Following the traps, chemical solutions were introduced, specifically warfarin-based baits intended to eliminate the population quietly. But in an environment where domestic animals are everywhere, this quiet approach carried a high price. Livestock fed in the same areas, deer roamed through, and local birds scavenged the same soil. An effort to manage a nuisance quickly transformed into an environmental gamble. State authorities eventually intervened, prohibiting the use of these poisons and forcing the conflict into a new phase. Each strategy brought its own set of repercussions, straining the relationship between people and their environment. Landowners eventually returned to fundamental methods: physical trapping, community cooperation, and raw persistence. They discovered that the true difficulty wasn't in the act of culling the hogs, but in doing so without causing collateral damage to the rest of the ecosystem. For many years, the act of hunting served as a bridge between Texans and their environment, patriarchs instructing their children, communities congregating post-harvest, and the scent of wood smoke drifting from weekend cookouts. Today, however, that legacy is being pushed to its breaking point. In the heart of Gillespie County, landowner Mark Ellison once tracked deer to provide meat for his local community. Now, his focus has shifted to culling feral swine to preserve the remains of his grain crops. He remarked to the Houston Chronicle that his motivation has evolved from providing food for his household to defending his livelihood. Meanwhile, in the Brazos Valley, rancher Carla Jenkins explains that a single group of boars has the potential to kill young livestock and ruin entire feeding areas. Surveying a mangled fence line, she notes somberly that if they cease their efforts, the animals will consume everything they own. With more than 1 million registered hunters, Texas accounts for nearly 50% of all sportsmen in the south-central United States. In this region, the hunt is far more than a pastime. It represents a commitment to land management, an ongoing struggle to ensure the landscape survives for those who follow. Thus, we combat the environment using firearms, enclosures, and snares. However, the natural world consistently recovers. Is it possible to thin their ranks without causing fresh ecological disruptions? Can we regulate these groups while maintaining the habitats that sustain both the hogs and every other species? Within this perpetual loop, Texas remains in the fray. Yet beneath the conflict lies a more unsettling inquiry. By challenging the wild on its native ground, are we merely remodeling nature to reflect our own desires? And what is the price of that transformation? Feral swine might be categorized as nuisances, but their history highlights a more significant truth: the speed at which the environment can destabilize when ignored, and the extreme measures people must take to regain stability. In the Lone Star State, protecting the soil is synonymous with protecting what lies ahead. Ultimately, that might be the real impact of this endeavor. Is a final resolution to this conflict between humanity and the wild even possible? This concludes Texas's Largest Pursuit, presented by Hunt and Harvest Life, where we explore the hidden narratives of the mutual struggle for survival between the people and the earth.